Hey everyone, Kyle here from Poseidon's Pets. I wanted to create a video about proper tank maintenance. I know there are a lot of new people to the hobby who are always looking for information on how to care for their new tank. So my 75-gallon Oscar aquarium is in need of some maintenance, so I figured this would be a great learning opportunity for everyone who is new to the hobby, just getting into fish and are not quite sure how to take care of their tank. So as always, thanks for watching, and I hope you learned something new. Fish waste and decaying fish food produce chemicals that can harm your fish and affect their overall well-being. This waste builds up in the aquarium water that can have adverse effects on their health. Fish waste and decaying food produce ammonia, which then through the nitrogen cycle turns into nitrites and nitrates. If you want to learn more about this process, I have created a video that explains the nitrogen cycle. I will post a link in the description below. A lot of times new people in the hobby ask, when should I change my water and clean my aquarium? Owning an aquarium is a bigger responsibility than most people think. Most people think you can just add fish and water and go about your lives. You should change your aquarium water once every 1 to 2 weeks, or if your water parameters reach unsafe levels. You should also change your water if your fish start acting differently. If your fish become skittish or stop eating, this is usually a sign that something's wrong. You may also notice your fish hanging out at the bottom of the aquarium or at the top of the aquarium. If they're rubbing on aquarium gravel or decorations, this can be a sign of illness as well. If you notice any of these activities, test your water with a master test kit so that way you know whether or not the parameters are safe. If water parameters and temperature look fine, and a 20% water change does not change their behavior, they may have some type of illness that is affecting their behavior. So to begin your tank maintenance, you're going to need a few items. The main thing, of course, is a water capture device. I use 5-gallon buckets, as well as a gravel vacuum. So this is going to help to get inside the gravel and take away any of that excess fish poop and their food that they've eaten or haven't eaten that's just sitting in there and decomposing. You're also going to need a water test kit. This is something that you should have already because testing your water parameters is one of the most important things that you can do when keeping fish. If your water parameters aren't correct, then your fish are just not going to be healthy. They're going to get sick, diseased, and could possibly die. When adding new aquarium water, you want to remove any chlorine that's in there. So I use Prime from Chem. It's a dechlorinator as well as has beneficial bacteria in it. So it's going to take out all the chlorine and harsh metals that are in the water, the tap water, and then also help to replenish any beneficial bacteria that may have died. You may also want to change out your filter media when you're doing a water change. Depending on how long you've had your tank running, changing out the filter media can actually be more detrimental than helping. Because if your tank hasn't been running very long, that filter media pad is actually what is housing all your beneficial bacteria. So you're basically throwing away all your bacteria when you change it out. If you do want to change this out, a more cost-effective way than buying the little filter cartridges is going into the fabric section of most stores and just getting this poly batting. It's called polyfill in a lot of places, and it's just a sheet of polyfill that looks exactly like your filter media. You can cut it to size, reuse it, whatever you want to do. It's cheap enough that if you want to throw it out, you can, but definitely make sure you have more colonies of bacteria in different parts of your tank established before you do that. Now this is more of a pro tip, but towels. Definitely want to have towels involved. You're going to be putting your arms in the tank, arms coming out, dripping water everywhere. It gets messy. So now that you have everything you need, what we're gonna do is go ahead and start cleaning this tank. And I have an Oscar in here. If you know anything about Oscars, they're a little temperamental. So if you see him laying on the bottom of the tank, he's fine. He's not hurting anything. He's just throwing a fit. Doesn't like it when I turn his filter off, move things around. He's a little bit dramatic. So I'm excited for you guys to learn a lot, and we'll get to it. One thing I do want to mention too is if you get a gravel vac that has a clip on it, this clip will actually clip to the side of the bucket and hold the hose in place. Now this one's just from Aqueon, and it's one that I just bought because of I wanted to have a gravel vac for each tank I have. And I do want to mention that I'm not sponsored by anybody who I mention their brand names for. It's just stuff that I've used in the past. If it's the same concept, it's going to work for you. There's a lot of reviews out there as far as product types and different products that you may want to use yourself. Now, depending on what type of gravel vac you've got, a lot of them have a little one-way stop valve inside of them. So to create the siphon, all you have to do is jiggle it up and down, and it releases that valve, eventually creating a siphon of water. Once you see the water flowing fluidly, all you have to do is push it into the gravel to start sucking up some of that stuff that's in there. And I didn't start the siphon. So I'm going to go ahead and do a 20% water change and siphon out this gravel. And you'll notice that the gravel does raise pretty quickly. So you want to make sure not to suck that up by just jiggling it loose. And keep an eye on your bucket level as far as the water goes, because you definitely don't want to make a mess. Can't believe I did that. Always turn your filter off and unplug the heater before you start doing any of this stuff. So that just goes to show that even people who have been doing this for a long time, you can forget the basics. So I'm running a sump in this 75-gallon aquarium, and what that is it's actually a overflow system to where the water overflows from the main tank into the same sump tank down below, and there's a pump that returns the water back to the tank. So as I was taking water out of the tank, it wasn't actually lowering this water level because the pump was continuing to put water back into it. Now the problem with that is the water level that I was changing was down here in my sump. So that noise you heard was my sump sucking air through that intake. Now this definitely is a good learning experience because I can illustrate the fact that when you are changing water, you want to turn off your filter as well as the heater. If your filter is not turned off, it's going to suck air and you can actually burn out that motor. So the reason you saw me scrambling is because I don't want to ruin that piece of equipment. So make sure you unplug your filter and your heater. If the heater is running in the air and it's not submerged, you could actually crack the glass. So always make sure to unplug those two items. If you have lights or air stones in your aquarium, those are fine to be running dry, of course. So just make sure you do that one step first. I'm gonna go ahead and do the rest of my water change now, and I will be back with you guys after that shortly. Now that you've vacuumed the gravel and removed 20% of your water, if you want to go ahead and clean your decorations, you can. Just simply take them out of the tank, shake loose any gravel that's on there. Save the last bucket of tank water to clean your aquarium plants in. So simply take them out of the tank and place them in the bucket of water. Watch out, Indy. Now this is where your towel comes in handy. So you never want to use soap or water when cleaning your aquarium decor. You just want to give them a gentle rub to knock loose any algae that has been growing on them. So that way the tank looks nice and it doesn't look grimy. And I can't stress this enough, do not use soap and water. You can poison your fish as well as you're killing any of the beneficial bacteria that are on your decor. Another thing I like to use too is just a simple algae scraper. So that way you could clean off any algae that is on the sides of the tank. I also like to stir up the gravel a little bit, just to loosen up any bits that may have gotten trapped. That way my filter can pick it up later. So now that you've removed the water and cleaned the gravel and the plants, what you want to do is add new water to the tank. You want to make sure that the new water is roughly the same temperature as the water that's in your aquarium. Now you can turn your faucet on and test that with a thermometer to make sure that it's at the right temperature, and then start adding it to your tank. Before you add anything to the aquarium, you want to make sure that you are dechlorinating the new water. So grab your dechlorinator, read the instructions, and only add enough to dechlorinate the amount of water that you're adding back. I did roughly 25 gallons, and this says a cap full for 50 gallons, so I'm probably only going to use half a cap. And what I do is I just add it directly to the tank instead of adding it to each individual bucket as I go. So that way I know that the new water that mixes in there is getting dechlorinated and removing all those harsh elements. Now you can use a little bit more than what's recommended, but don't go too far over the scale. It's not going to hurt anything if you don't measure it precisely. So I'm going to go ahead and refill this tank, and I'll be right back with you guys. Now that your tank's filled back up, go ahead and plug your filters back in. So if you are using a hang on the back style filter, when you plug it back in, make sure that it has enough water in it to create the siphon to go back inside the filter. Now you'll notice that I didn't plug my heater back in yet, and the reason for that is they have internal thermometers that they're reading the tank water at. So you want to let that sit for about a half hour before you plug your heater back in. So now that the tank is up and running, you guys have effectively seen how to care for your tank and maintain your aquarium. Hey everyone, as always, thank you so much for watching, and I definitely enjoy making videos like this. It allows me to share my passion for the hobby as well as informing everybody who's new to the hobby of how to do different things. So definitely go ahead and like and subscribe, and if there's anything that you want to say to me or ideas for future videos, go ahead and throw that in the comments below. I always enjoy reading your guys' comments and I reply all the time. So thanks again for stopping by and enjoy your day.